Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. UFC 324 is almost 2 weeks away from now, and we are finally ending this massive drought of no fights. The main event, of course, is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the Interim Lightweight Title. Although I don't like the fact that Arman Tsarukyan is not involved in the interim title, as a massive Justin Gaethje fan, I was still very excited when this announced because I still want Justin Gaethje to become a champion, even though he's probably not the most skilled fighter. But yeah, everyone is already writing Justin off. They say he is too old, his chin is not really the same anymore, and he has no Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. While I do agree this there are merits to this point, uh, I still believe a healthy Justin Gaethje is still a handful for Paddy. But unfortunately, I don't think the same anymore with with the news of Gaethje's staph infection. I initially was thinking about doing a deep analysis of on how this fight will um, might look like, what are their skills, etc. But I still want to dive into some notes I had already prepared based on what if the fight stays on the feet, and I think you guys will probably find it interesting. We know Paddy's weapons. At least we have some idea of what Paddy's weapons are. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is elite, um, and if the fight hits the mat, he's likely gonna get a sub because Gaethje somehow, even though he's a professional fighter, is worse than a mother of four who does Jiu-Jitsu on the weekend. Um, but I don't think Paddy's wrestling is quite at the level to simply take down Justin Gaethje. So today let's just look at what happens if the fight stays on the feet. Starting with what I like about Paddy on the feet. Paddy is actually quite good with his kicks. He throws a lot of leg kicks, heavy leg kicks, just like Justin Gaethje. Interestingly, neither of them really check kicks consistently, but he also is quite good with his lead leg. He goes to the body, he goes to the head. Um, I actually find Paddy very similar to Dricus du Plessis. The movement is weird, strangely good with their kicks, but just like du Plessis, his hands are weird to say the least. Which brings us to what I really don't like about Paddy. Everything he does with his hand is quite bad. His hand placement is extremely questionable and is almost never at his chin. Like you can see here, throws an overhand, left hand is at the body, throws an uppercut, left hand is down here. Even when he's throwing jabs and left hooks, he usually pulls it down to his body instead of keeping it up or going back to his chin. Something he really was throwing a lot against Chandler um, was the uppercuts. His uppercuts were particularly horrible in my opinion. He was throwing a lot of it because of Chandler's height and stance, but they were quite dangerous for Paddy himself. Not only was he throwing naked uppercuts, but he was also telegraphing them a lot in the fight. For example, like look here, he had already thrown a couple of uppercuts before this, but Chandler didn't really counter it because he was really focused on just covering up. But here, he was finally looking through his guard at Paddy, and he saw Paddy telegraphing the uppercut. And as soon as Paddy went for it, he started countering it with left hooks. And he did this multiple times in the fight. Compare this to Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje also likes his uppercuts. This is generally what Justin Gaethje likes to do with his uppercuts. He usually gets a collar tie either from a jab or or during an exchange, and then from there he will throw the uppercut in the clinch. He lands this against so many fighters. Like he landed it against Fiziev in the first fight. The second fight, he landed it against Oliveira. He landed it against Cowboy Cerrone. There are so many examples of this. Even when he's throwing out in the open, like he did against the Chandler fight, there is still a clear setup for it. First, he lands a left hook on Chandler. Then he uses the left hand to block Chandler's vision, and then he uses the uppercut to drop Chandler. Even when Paddy throws leg kicks, he's still quite defensively open, because he doesn't really like move his head when he's throwing the leg kicks. Like if you look at the leg kick here, he's just throwing it, but his head is still quite straight in the line of sight from Chandler. This happens, and then after that, Chandler starts countering it because his head is quite open. When Justin Gaethje throws it, he usually like moves his head from the center line, from Fiziev from his opponents. I think the I think Justin Gaethje has a lot of openings that he can find on Paddy Pimblett. Of course, if the fight somehow ends up on the ground and Paddy somehow, or maybe even if Paddy somehow gets the back, like how Oliveira did against Dustin Poirier, he's probably gonna get a sub. On the flip side, if Justin Gaethje hurts Paddy and drops him, I don't think he will follow him to the floor or he will stay on the floor. I think he will get out of this position just like how he did against Oliveira. Ultimately, the news of Gaethje being sick, with the news of Justin Gaethje being sick, I really don't like his chances as much as I did before. But it's, in my opinion, it's still a pretty close fight and a very interesting one. Another thing that I would say is quite interesting to look at is the Justin Gaethje versus James Vick, and Vick is also quite similar with his kick. To throws a lot of kicks from both sides, both legs, and he was really frustrating Justin Gaethje, and Justin Gaethje answered this by pressuring him really well. But Paddy can probably take shots from Justin. So yeah. So what do you guys think? Do you think Paddy gets a takedown on Gaethje and finishes him there, or will the fight stay on the feet? Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the breakdown, and I will see you in another video.